The Valley Current.
Hello, Jack.
Hey, Don, how have you been?
Good.
Well, you're looking great, man. So the loud culture is making you younger every day, isn't it?
I better believe it. You better believe it. Yeah.
You've been there for a while, right? Haven't you?
Where?
In Laos.
At the moment, I'm not in Laos, actually,
Oh.
but I've spent enough time there to enjoy the everything, pretty much. Enjoy the country.
I thought you were resident there. Have you decided to move back to the UK?
No, I travel all over the world. I've been since I saw you in Laos. I was in Florida, USA for about 6 months, and in Europe, and now I'm in Israel.
Israel. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which is home? Is Israel now home?
Is the world is home. So
Nice.
I'm at the moment here to pursue this new business that I was telling you about. So I need to be here to. Here's where the technology is. And so we're developing the technology and bringing it forward. So I'm spending a few months here, and then the next place would be where the next customer is going to be.
Wow, you are the flexible digital global traveler then, right? The digital nomad. Is that what you would call yourself?
Yeah, well, that's the digital nomads that I met on my travels were actually about half my age, and walking around with their laptop and trying to do some online business. But I like to be called in that category. Sounds
right.
Nice.
It keeps you young or younger, and I guess now that you're sort of retired from university life, because you taught it. I forget what school you taught at. Remind me, you were a business school professor, right?
I taught. Yeah, I taught finance. I was a finance professor at universities and business colleges, both in the U.S. and in Israel. So in the U.S., I taught at Boston University, San Jose State University. In Israel, I taught in a couple of universities here and head up some business colleges.
Right. So now you're doing a new startup. Can you describe what you're doing generically at a high level, or is it under the radar?
No, it's totally out there. We have a company called Sinai Group. Sinai stands for Smart Infrastructure AI.
Right.
Basically, what we're doing is we are helping companies integrate AI into their system. So I got quite interested in the AI space not too long ago. And as I was pursuing it, actually, I was pursuing it as an investment. Mm-hmm. But then, and I looked into it more and more, I was kind of shocked at how fast this is coming on stream. So immediately came to the conclusion that everybody is going to need it. When I'm talking about the corporate space at the moment, of course, the individuals as well, but everybody in the corporate space is going to need it. It's coming a lot faster than people have anticipated. It's almost like a train coming towards you,
right? And
you either hop on the train or it's going to run you over,
right?
So the conclusion, is that in a few years is getting less and less. So
it's like a few months now.
Well, okay, let's say,
a few quarters, maybe a few quarters.
Yeah, maybe 24 months, possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So you either have and using it, the AI, or you're going to become extinct. You're going to lose market share. You're going to not be as efficient, as productive, and you're going to lose it. So I looked at that. I said, this is real interesting. And then I looked into what's happening in the corporate world. And what I saw was that many of these companies have actually invested money in AI, and they're not seeing the return on investment. They're
Right.
not seeing the return on investment. And I was curious. I'm an economist by training, so I was curious, why is that the case?
Right.
And it turns out that there are two main factors. One is technical and one is human.
Mm-hmm.
So the technical factor is that these companies are bringing on systems, like separate silo systems. So there's a system for the accounting, and there's a system for the marketing, and there's a system for HR, and so on. And these, on their own, they're great systems, but they don't talk to each other.
Right. They're all siloed. They're all siloed. Right.
They're silo. They're not open code.
Right.
And so they don't talk to each other. And
there's some that are still running on mainframes using COBOL from like the 1970s and 1980s, maybe even 1960s. Right.
I mean, some of them are, but I'm talking about the companies that are actually trying to bring on some kind of artificial intelligence.
Right.
But so the first issue is they have these systems that cost them a lot of money. So there's no flow. There's no flow with the whole system.
Right.
So then so that's the one factor, and the second factor is that where the CEO is interested in increasing productivity and so on, the middle management are afraid.
Right.
And they're afraid, first of all, of change in general, but mainly they see this new technology and they're afraid that it's going to replace them.
Right.
So there's those are the two factors. So it got me interested enough to come out of retirement and put together this venture, trying to actually assist companies to implement this AI. So I have a former student of mine here in Israel who put together a platform, an architecture, where it's end to end. It's like a 10 layers where end to end AI is going through the whole system. It's all integrated, all one kind of unit, one kind of system rather. And we fine-tune the technology, and now we're in the position to implement it. So so if you do the one system, then you've taken care of the silo structures, the silo, and you have one language, one data going through, and so it's going to go. It's going to start from the sensors. Sensors could be, by the way, this is for any industry.
Right.
Industry. So the sensors are going, so let's say manufacturing company. So the sensors would be on the machinery,
right,
and picking up that data, and it's going to connect with the other data. These silo systems that are already in place can be reconnected, and then it all goes into a cloud. And from the cloud, it goes into the brain. And the brain, there's going to be machine learning, and there's going to be dedicated algorithms for optimization. And that
it sounds like he's created what some people would call a virtual machine. Like he's created something that can be abstracted from, if it works anywhere, service business, manufacturing business, anything. It sounds like he's created something that has sort of an abstraction layer to it that enables it to apply almost anywhere, which would be a major innovation in and of itself, because most of these middleware companies, I think they're called, that are trying to link the ERP system into the CRM system, and a CRM system with the ERP system into the, marketing system. Like, they'll basically are taking all these existing systems and trying to plug them into each other. And then oftentimes the projects fall apart because one thing or another, whether it's the people or the technology, or sometimes it's even, third parties, outside stakeholders that get in the way, because there can be a lot of behavioral change that's required as well. And, the world is moving to this area where people want to see less friction in everything. Like, look, we just got the Zoom call to occur. Boom, it just happens. We can enable it, and boom, it happens. Like, years ago, I remember 1964 World's Fair. My dad took me to it, and we're talking now 60 years ago. And the first video phone was shown by AT&T, and everyone was like, "Wow, is that really going to happen? And then how expensive will it be? Oh, maybe in our lifetimes we'll see it." And it's happened. I mean, it's not AT&T, it's Zoom. Oddly, AT&T should really have been the brand on it, but it's not. And it is really taken over the world and how people communicate, and enables you to do a lot of stuff throughout the world, right?
It's happening so much faster.
Right.
It's happening. And so you talked about the stakeholders. So clearly the different stakeholders have different pains that need to be addressed. So as I said, the CEO, his pain is, I need to be competitive and productive, because if I don't adopt this, I know that my competitors will, and they'll just take over the market share.
Right.
So we're talking about the management, the middle management. Mm-hmm. So here's the issue. So there needs to be a change in corporate culture of the company to go from whatever the modus operandi was for all these years, to be a data-driven company, data-driven. Right. And the data-driven means that decisions are made based on data. They're much more knowledgeable, and of course the AI is sitting over here and is your consultant, and giving you the optimizing your system. Now. Mm-hmm. The point of the middle management that fear of being replaced, I would argue the following, that the people that don't adopt the AI and don't learn how to use it, those will be the people that will be replaced. Right. The people, those middle management that are able to adopt and learn to use the AI will first of all infinitely increase their productivity. Right. If they infinitely increase their productivity, they become much more valuable to the company and to the industry. So not only they won't be replaced, they'll be sought after. They'll be run after, and so the people that are able to work, in fact, their value added is going to increase dramatically, and their compensation along with that. Right. So to come back to what we're doing, so our one level is the introduction of the technology and supervising its integration. The next level is on the corporate culture side. And here's where my experience as an educator, and I also, mentioned to you in the past, I also did another degree in therapy and so on. So I have these tools to go in and train the management and train and help them change the corporate culture and help these middle managers feel comfortable enough to use the new technology and progress accordingly. So what we're offering is
you help them get over their future shock. Remember that book years ago called Future Shock? We all read it and said, maybe this will happen. And the guy was right on. I mean, he was correct. And you're now actually helping people make the transition and accepting that it's a new world and we are going to have AI assistants and we are eventually probably going to have super intelligent AI assistants as well, right?
Well, I think the general intelligence is that, I mean, they say it's going to be in 2 years. I think it's here already. I think they're just not publicizing it. It's the speed of this progress is inevitable because of the competition. It's competition between the AI companies and the competition with China.
Right.
It's the competition that's going to push this thing forward at the speeds that it's been going now and only progressing from here. So I see. So where if you had a period of labor doing their thing, labor now is so now the AI is capital. So capital is going to gradually replace labor. And eventually, when the super AI comes in, super intelligence, then I think eventually everything will be automated. However, I believe that there is a in-between period, which could be years, where there's going to be a combination of capital or AI with humans, and this is the window that I'm trying to address with these clients.
Right. So what I'm just curious, because you're a very learned person. What do you think Karl Marx would say if he were alive today? Right, because Karl Marx would be tuned into everything you just said, and the minute you said labor is basically going away and it's being replaced by capital. I mean, his view of life, if I remember reading his works, was very much that, labor really should get a bigger voting right in everything that happens, because labor is essential and it's exploited over and over again by the capitalists and, the bourgeois group that tries to sort of say that they are more learned than everyone else. And the truth is, his view of life was very associated with the working class labor that was killing itself to sort of produce for others that, of course, Marx felt the distribution of the outcome of that labor output was unfairly distributed back. And now we know, the most recent report I saw was that the super net worth, which I always thought was north of 100 million net worth, but they tell me it's only 30 million in the graphs, and that there's a total in the US of 500,000 people that have net worths above 30 million. I would have guessed it would be more like 5 million, frankly. But of course, my vision is distorted by Silicon Valley, where it seems like everyone has a house that's worth more than $30 million. If you look at some of the real estate sales. But conceptually, what do you think Marx would say? Because you made a very provocative statement that labor is withering away. And I think Marx, if I remember, his books were very much that capital was going to be withering away. And he thought that the labor would take over, right?
Well, I'd make the following argument that Karl Marx, his philosophy was in reaction to the Industrial Revolution,
right,
which was the first introduction of a major introduction of capitalism, and then the friction with labor and so on.
Right.
I'm sure that Karl Marx did not envision the progress of the technology that's taking place. And when I was an economics student many years ago, we learned there was 4 factors of production. There was land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneurial elements. Mm-hmm. So land will still be there. You have a place, your product, your factory, whatever. So somehow land will still be there, but the distribution between labor and capital is going to be going to change, and it's changing clearly. Right. So it's right that those who own the capital, and capital, could eventually not be money. It could be CPUs.
Right,
Who
or
owns
intellectual capital, or intellectual property, or intellectual capital
intellectual cap?
tied to equipment to implement it. Sure, absolutely. Hmm.
Okay, well, I'm like, yeah, like the CPUs are going to produce the intellect, so
Right.
it's going to eventually. So so then, if you're talking about distribution of wealth, so the wealth will eventually go to uh, the owners of the capital, as it's already happening.
Mhm.
So what do you do? And at some point, and it could be in a very few years, there will be the efficiency and the robot
Right.
will be much higher than the human, and
Right.
um, also the robot will be much cheaper than holding the worker. So the worker will be replaced by the robot. Now you can't. So what do you do for these people? Where there's this new concept of universal income. So universal income,
Basic.
meaning
Yeah,
that,
basic. I
yeah,
think they call it universal
basic, yeah,
basic
yeah, yeah,
income. Right.
universal basic income,
Right.
which they or based income, I think. So that means that you will just get a certain amount of money just by being human,
Right.
and as opposed to a machine. So you,
Right.
as a human, you'll be getting it, and then you go and develop some other things, another way of life, and you sustain yourself off that universal based income. Now,
Right.
that brings up another issue which kind of feeds into what I was talking about, how to bring the labor or the workers on board on the system. Well, the people that eventually get replaced, there's an issue of their purpose in life is very
Right.
much many times tied to their labor, their profession.
Right.
So if they're no longer the accountants or the economists or
Or the
whatever,
lawyers, or the lawyers,
or the lawyer,
or the educators, because hey, ChatGPT has a whole learning mode now that they've incorporated right into it, right?
Absolutely. So who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Then why am I? What's my purpose in life? And then there's going to be a whole and here comes in the therapeutic aspect of it. So there are tools to deal with that, to give some a different look in life, and say, hey, the social constructs that were in the past, that you're supposed to go out and work, is supposed to that's no longer relevant, and it's a new world, and so on.
Right. People will start to try to understand better what I call their edge. Like, you have an edge. You have an edge because you can summarize it very well. You say, look, I'm very well trained in economics. I'm very well trained in business, but I also aided myself by doing this therapeutic aspect. So I have a higher sense of emotional intelligence. That's my edge in helping a startup and in helping this business. You've discovered that. You can say that. I'm telling you, if you interview 100 other people that are roughly in your age bracket, they'll be like, I haven't really discovered my edge. Like, I know for my own self, my edge tends to be working with young entrepreneurs that have a fuzzy idea of where they want to go, and they need someone to act as devil's advocate to sort of say, are we on the right path? Are we using the right fuel? Do we have the right vehicle to get there? Are we going to have enough fuel, meaning resources, to get there? How can we best use the resources we have, and so on, and help those businesses kind of avoid the potholes of litigation and controversy and challenge and everything else along the way of what might be a 5 or 10 year journey for any startup, because startups take a while to actually get traction. Usually, some do far better than others. Microsoft took like 14 years. Apple took like 10. I mean, different ones take different, and once you know your edge and you enjoy actually implementing your edge, you're delivering value for people and it's making you happy. And that's what we have to sort of teach people to try to be introspective about as they make their way through grade school, high school, college, if there is going to be a college anymore, graduate school, if there's going to be graduate school, law school, if there's going to be a law school. I mean, you can go on because I look at where we are today and I look at my grandkids and say, does it really make sense for them to be imagining going into $300,000 or $400,000 worth of debt to get a university degree? I just can't imagine that that's going to be true for most people. I just can't imagine it.
I totally agree with you. I was talking about the educational system, and I come out of that of being teaching for many years. It's clearly going to change. A lot of the subjects that, like your lawyer or economics or so on, I think that those will be replaced by the machines. And if I had to recommend to somebody what were they starting today, what to study, so I'd say I don't study programming, because the programming has already been right. Taken over by the thing.
Right.
But perhaps study math
and critical thinking and
critical thinking, and study flexibility of thinking, mm-hmm. and strengthen your ability to adjust and to readjust, because what you think, you start studying, in 3 years it'll be a machine doing it. So your ability to keep on moving, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, you have to be extremely adaptable in a world that's changing almost every year, really. It used to be every 4 years. We got into this 4-year rhythm, because it's 4 years of college and maybe 4 years of graduate school and maybe another 4 years of postgraduate kind of work. And for doctors, of course, it's even a longer hike than that. And in general, I think people are realizing a lot can change over every one of those 4-year cycles. And even without a pandemic, of course, if a pandemic happens and everything changes yet again. And more, I think you put your finger on something a lot of people haven't, which is, if you enjoy helping people start a business, then come out of retirement and do it. Because let me tell you something, that's going to bring you great joy, even if the business fails. Even if the business fails, you're going to learn so much about the journey along the way that you'll have something to teach others about, when you do a startup of this type, here's the potholes that you eventually will see, because I went down that road and we fell into some of those potholes. I mean, that's just the way things typically go, right?
I think the key words to what you said was, if you enjoy to help people, and you said in business, but help people in general.
Right.
Help people in general. And if, I all the time try to go back and see what my purpose is. And I thoroughly enjoy helping people, and helping, taking somebody that's in a trajectory that's unfavorable, and helping them change the trajectory to a different one, which would be better for their lives, more connected their lives, and so on, to what they want out of life. So, if people are looking for purpose, try helping somebody else. And you'd be surprised, at least I'm always pleasantly surprised how wonderful it feels. I mean, you and I met in Laos, where I was talking about a project that I was working on over there. And, the help that I've been given over there makes me feel very good.
Right. You're doing something fabulous. And we had you on the podcast talking about it. And I always wondered whatever played out, because you were helping a woman that was trying to build kind of a pharmacy distribution, or essentially a drug distribution, ethical drug distribution supply chain in an area of the world that doesn't really have that and is kind of barren, right? It just doesn't have.
Right.
And I think, if I recall, it was going to take something like 100,000 US or some relatively small number to give benefit to a much larger number of people. And the Lao government didn't have the funds to do it, or didn't want to deploy the funds to do it. And this medical doctor or nurse, the woman who was leading up the effort that you were helping, pharmacist, was like, yeah, we can do this. I just need some help to do it. It's imminently doable. And there are things in the way, but you need to kind of, step by step, march your way through it. So how have things gone since that? Because this was a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah. So the idea was to put this pharmacy in a cluster of very poor villages that they don't have access otherwise, or it's difficult to get access to any medication. So what we've done so far, we're able to secure a piece of land. Mm-hmm. And so we already have the land, and she was able to secure a permit. The Laotian government needs to give a permit. If you don't have the permit of it, I mean, it's that country. So if you need the permit, so she secured the permit, and we secured the land. Now we're looking to raise out of the 100,000, the maybe 60, 70,000 left to create the building and the and fill it with the medications and so on. So we're at that stage that we're in the process of trying to get the remaining $70,000 to see this thing through.
Well, the good news on that is probably that the 60 or 70,000 remaining can actually be kind of a financing line against the inventory of drugs that will make their way into actual sales, or is this all going to be in the nature more of a gift when you think about how you inventory out a pharmacy, right?
I think the inventory is going to be negligible compared to the putting together the structure and the business. So no, it would still be in the context of contributions and
right. But conceptually, let's just say worst case, because of course as business people we always think worst case. If she has the land and she has kind of the design for what she wants to do, theoretically she could get financing that we would call it a mortgage. It might be called something else in Laos, on the land, that would allow the construction loan to build the building, right? You could imagine someone financing this on essentially a 30-year mortgage, right? Because this is going to produce some income stream eventually, isn't it? At some level?
Hopefully, yeah. But Laos is Laos, and I haven't heard of 30-year loans.
No, I agree.
Outside of the U.S. and you know how they are, and apparently land is, not that expensive. So that's that. But we're working towards to complete it, and hopefully it'll be completed in the next.
No, I agree, and I will send you a link. It's a very funny link that you will enjoy, and you might send to her, where one of my friends, who I have been trying to introduce you to, and I will get that introduction to happen. He was a professor at the University of California at Berkeley. He taught geography, Southeast Asian geography. He finally decided to move and retire to Laos. And he decided to build himself essentially an estate in Laos. So he had to buy the land. And the funny part of the story is when it came to paying for the land, there were pallets of cash that had to be delivered to pay. There was no wire transfer the way in America we do stuff, boom, wire transfer to a title company. No. Yeah. They had to get pallets of cash delivered to the seller of the land because and then they had to count the money. And of course, the Lao currency, you buy a cup of coffee in Laos for maybe 15 cents or something, you get a massage for maybe $3. I mean, in the US, it's like Starbucks in the US is like $6 these days if you put anything in it that isn't just straight black coffee, right?
I mean, people that want to lend this project money can get repaid in massages, and then
no, seriously. I mean, I tell you, it's going to happen eventually. But he tells this great story because now he's actually produced, and we should go to Laos to visit him. Don, you should come, and she should come. There will be a certain synergy for discussion of what's happening in the U.S. versus what's happening in Israel versus what's happening in Laos, what's happening in Silicon Valley. But the interesting part is he talks about how much, I mean, he did this in his 70s. He didn't do this as a young man, and his wife died, and he decided he was going to retire in life. He's got a beautiful estate. It's gorgeous. I've been there. It's right on the river. It's just absolutely amazing, right? And he tells a story of every aspect of this. In the U.S., it would be like one button. And in Laos, it's like 1 million pieces of paper with 1 million different stamps and 1 million different aspects to get something done, but he's done it, and it's almost over. And the funny part of the story, the punchline of the story, is he didn't realize that his neighbor had sold the neighbor's land, and they're building a big hotel next door. And he thought he had this private estate, and now he's realizing he's actually probably in more of a commercial district that's going to become full of hotels, and he's questioning whether he's going to get the degree of privacy anymore. Maybe a while before this hotel is built, but apparently there's a lot of land along the river that's ripe for people to build hotels on, and Laos is becoming a bit of a destination resort kind of place, right?
Yeah, well, Lopabang we're talking about. That's they're it's one of those things that there's these fancy areas, and then there's a huge desert, not quite desert. That's not a desert, but that's non-visited by tourists, and it's quite a large area. So, I mean, the project that we're trying to put in is one of those areas that never gets visited.
But the one reason for connecting Bob is I do think Bob has a charity that runs through a 501c3. And some of the people that listen to this podcast, particularly if I say, okay, we'll figure out a way to get her at least $5,000 as a charitable contribution through the 501c3. And maybe we'll get some other people from Silicon Valley to do the same, because it is a good mission that you're sponsoring. You put a lot of free time into it. She is trying to do the right thing. Bob is a bit of a philanthropist, and he does have this charitable trust that he's working through, and it does connect through a 501c3. And I think that's the thing that will enable her to bridge, with your help and mine, what her goal is, because her goal is very worthy, and it is going to bring a lot of joy to anyone that gets involved with it, because it's brought a lot of joy to you already. I saw you with her, and she was very genuine in wanting to do the right thing, and she is doing the right thing. And those are the people that you really want to help in this world, because they do deliver a lot of value to people that would otherwise have to struggle. And that's going to make a big difference to a little tiny part of the world that is not on most people's radar. It just isn't, right?
Well, I'm just saying that people who might be looking for a purpose, here's an example of something that fulfills me, and obviously you too, because you're also helping people and helping young entrepreneurs and so on. Can I want to make coming back to the business for a minute. I want to make an offer to people who might be more interested in what I've been talking about.
Okay.
And what we do is we do case studies on companies.
Right.
And in the case studies, and this is case studies before we get any private data, we do the case studies on public data.
Right.
And the point of the case study is to demonstrate, if you bring in the AI system, this is what you're going to benefit from. And exactly do an ROI analysis, and you can see. So there's like a distribution company who we did it for. So we showed that how much they can save on their warehouses and on their truck fleet and so on. and or the manufacturing companies, if you put sensors on their machines, then you can preempt the maintenance. So you can preempt before the AI will forecast what before the breakdown of the machine is going to take place. So if you preempt that and do preempt maintenance, you save 50% of your unwanted downtime and stuff like that. So there's a major benefits from these things. So what I'd like to do is, with your permission, I'll tell them how to get in touch with me.
Yes, please. And the name of the company, the startup that you're supporting. What's the name of that? What's the name of that company?
Okay, so for the start, my name is Don Elan. It's on the screen over there.
Oh, you're a professor, Professor Don Elan. You're a very well educated gentleman, and you're doing the right thing in all different parts of the world. And right now, you're here from Israel, which we'll have a separate conversation about what's going on in Israel at some point. We won't do that right now.
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm. First of all, you can get me through my LinkedIn page. I have a LinkedIn page, and I actually am putting out a series of posts which are talking exactly to the topics that we've discussed today. Okay. So you can connect, and then in there's the email. However, the group is called Sinai Group. Sinai stands for Smart Infrastructure AI. So it's SINAI Group. Okay. And we're also on LinkedIn over there, and there's a website. If you Google Sinai Group -AI, the website will come up, and there's in greater detail what we're doing, what we're talking about, who we are, and so on. So to the extent that you're interested in contacting me, you could probably through the LinkedIn would be the easiest way of doing it, and we'll take it from there. And then if you have a company that you want to get an idea of how the AI can benefit you. And I'm talking about with the architecture that we were talking about, that it's end to end. So we will do a case study for you. For this is just a pro bono.
Well, the case study does lead to you figuring out whether or not your new technology can actually help the business, right? That's what I imagine is the punchline here, right, to this story.
I mean, we've already established in seeing numerous companies that it does help. The question is how much. So how much savings you can actually occur. But there's the issue of when you become data savvy. Okay, you're a company, right? Right. Then you actually generated a value, because the data is valuable. Up to now, you're giving your data for free, but the data is actually a store of value. And once you've become like a company that has the ability to forecast when a machine will break down, then if you're a company that's producing machines, you can offer your client not only the machine but also the service. We will service the machines for you, and we will find the preemption of the maintenance to preempt breakdowns, and by doing that, we will guarantee that your downtime will be significantly less, and so on. So so they'll be using it for themselves, but they can sell it as a service to their clients. So they can generate.
And I would think you're much less expensive, both on the case study as well as on the actual technology, than a big player like Accenture or the big four accounting firms that are trying to do stuff like this as part of their consulting teams, because they tend to really charge big numbers. And of course, there's like hundreds of other companies too that are doing stuff like this, and whether they can pull it off or not is another question, right? Because they tend to not be really steeped in AI. They're learning it fast, but they're not necessarily AI first companies. They're people first companies, right?
That's the point. First of all, the technology, everything is so new that everybody's trying to play catch up and so on. So in terms of the preliminary case study based on the public information, I'm doing that for free. I'm doing that just as a gesture to show you what can be done.
Right.
Then if we have a deal, of course we come in and then we do a thorough investigation based on your internal data, and then we can find out how much the whole thing costs, because it's going to be, you may, if you don't have the sensors right now, then you may have purchased the sensors and so on, and what you have and what you don't have, and then that'll create the business. We are a service, so we don't manufacture things, but we service. We're like a contractor that think of it this way: these companies, if they have a big issue, a legal issue, they farm it out to an outside law firm, have them do their thing, complete it and bring it back into the company and so on. Well, or like an accounting firm, an external accounting firm, or maybe if you want to rent an external CFO for a year and so on. So we are this body to be an external technical team working with your technical people, and hand shoulder to shoulder to bring this thing to fruition and show you where the AI can contribute to your return on investment, and and then it depends how big you are and so on and so forth, and that's how the price will be determined. But I don't
know why any company that it hasn't really implemented AI wouldn't immediately take up your offer, because having an outside expert like you and your team come in to just simply say, here's what we envision is possible, that is worth so much from an outside, having an outsider come in. It's a little bit like if you have an outsider come into your house and you say to the outsider, please tell me things you see that aren't quite right with this house. Well, they come in not really knowing your house, but the minute they come to the front door and they notice, oh, there's a broken window on the front door, the lock looks like it's loose, the screen door doesn't really shut correctly. A new perspective always brings all sorts of value, because we all get locked into the inertia of that's just the way it is, it seems to work, why fix it if it ain't broke? But the truth is, in a world that's becoming quickly subject to AI innovation, if you don't actually get ahead of the curve, you're behind the curve. Like if you don't come to the meeting early, you're at the meeting late. To get to the meeting on time means you actually miss the important conversations that happen before the formal meeting actually started. So in some sense, it's true that you have to get ahead of the curve. So your group is doing something very noble, and for free just shocks me, because I think there are consultants in Silicon Valley that have minimum tabs of $100,000 for doing what you guys are talking about doing. So I'll put your contact information into the footnotes here. And why don't you tell people again your email address, so if they're just listening in their car, they can make a mental note, because my recollection is you have an easy to remember email address.
Well, this is really the corporate email. So it'd be don.elan at Sinai Group -AI.com.
Okay, so it's Sinai, just like the hospital in New York City, right? It's spelled SINAI Group, GROUP-AI.com, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Don, I got to go, but I'm going to connect you up with Professor Bob Acker, and we'll figure out a way to help this other charitable cause that you're doing, because I think it's quite noble. And we should probably have me, you, him, and your entrepreneur who's doing that pharmacy effort come on for an update of the progress she's made, and talk further about that. All right.
That'll be-
Thanks, Don. Thanks for
Thank you.
staying up for me. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank-
Tune in next time on The Valley Current.